Told you Fergie wasn't going to go away quietly, didn't I? I mean, this is not a woman who decides, of course, to step back from the limelight. This is, of course, a woman who knows exactly, many might say, how to play the media. Fergie's played the media for decades, right? I mean, absolutely sitting down with Oprah Winfrey, writing her autobiography, doing numerous interviews, the infamous interview in Australia with 60 Minutes, and then, of course, walking out because she couldn't get her own way. And really, it's the stings that have really made Fergie the sort of infamous character that people like His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, Prince William, are very nervous of, as you can imagine. I mean, the thing of trying to get access via the News of the World, if you remember that, I mean, that was absolute bombshell material stuff. And yet, as we all know, His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, basically said, no dice, never coming back. Perhaps, of course, King Charles, being a kinder, sweeter guy, thought, well, maybe she's learned her lesson. He's now finding out the hard way that possibly Fergie hasn't, as ever. Let me explain. Hi, good to see you. Nice to have your company. Thank you so much for joining me today. Nice to have you here. I hope you, are you all right? Well, welcome back, one and all. It's absolutely. And by the way, thank you for your comments regarding President Trump and the BBC. As I said, I'm impartial on this channel. I like to tell you the bits that you find out. The thing that I would find is that it's clearly a doctored thing. Right? Whichever way you look at it, it's just doctored material. They openly lied, and this is the British Broadcasting Corporation. And it angers me, you know, because clearly, if you can't trust that organisation, what can you trust? You know, you turn on your news, you're supposed to believe them, and then you find out, actually, you know, they're just liars. So consequently, you do think, whether you like the President of the United States or not, he was right all along. The thing that always fascinates me is, though, these people never get held to account. Have you noticed that? Some might say, of course, that Prince William is desperately trying to hold Sarah, the ex-Duchess of York, to account alongside his uncle, the ex-Duke of York, Andrew, now simply Andrew Windsor. I would surmise, just in my personal opinion, chums, that Andrew will be the lesser problem of the two. I mean, it's fascinating, you see, because over here in the United Kingdom, for instance, we had a documentary on the other night. I think it was on the BBC, made by Panorama. And what was interesting was it was such a lackluster affair because it was basically a hit job on Prince Andrew. And as I said, whether you like him or not, there are no, formed allegations against him at this point. And he has said they're all untrue. But the BBC didn't bother with that, right? So they just interviewed the usual plethora of authors and people who were, could benefit from this with no tangible evidence. You see, my argument with these sort of stories is this, that all of these people write these books and say, oh, but I couldn't put that bit in because of the legal. But you're expecting me to believe it then. Without legal evidence, then you're just writing a gossip book. You understand? That's my take on it. Not defending, I'm just saying we need that evidence put in front of us. What's interesting with somebody like Fergie, and this is where, of course, Prince William desperately wanted to pull, the plug, as it were, he sees her as a more volatile character. And as I told you the other day, the problem that William has is the trust factor also alongside the daughters, Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice. You see, they are not working roles. As such, they help out when they can. They're not afforded security, even though at the time people forget that Prince Andrew pushed hard and fast because he wanted that for his daughters. And, we might say we now know the reasons why. Well, of course, at the time, Queen Elizabeth said, no dice, not having it, doesn't matter who you are. It didn't sit well in the public domain. Now, as I've told you, of course, William doesn't want that necessarily association with Princess Eugenie and Beatrice. In the public domain, it's all nice. Behind the scenes, not so nice, right? Simply because I can tell you, and again, I have to say this legally, allegedly, Fergie is still looking around for the most suitable person that she could sit down with. Now, here's where this gets interesting, because obviously these TV interviews, and I'd love to know your comments, in fact, do let me know on this one, because nobody buys it. When we were younger, do you remember when Michael Jackson sat down with Oprah Winfrey, or, those big splashy interviews where you think, oh, right, but we didn't know that they were so coerced or so rehearsed and all of that, everything is put in its place, tick boxy. You just thought, oh, well, they're finally telling the truth. really. They wouldn't know the truth, would they? But here's the deal. Fergie is looking for somebody that she believes could present her story in a better light. And this is because she feels that she's been unfairly treated, moved off royal life without really, again, by association. Her people are telling me the only damning thing that is out there in the public domain is the fact that she wanted to support this particular individual in order to save her own publishing deals. She didn't want him to, whatever. Of course, behind the scenes, there are certain things that suggest this relationship and funding went on a lot deeper. However, Fergie believes that she's hit upon a good plan because she believes, as she calls herself with her two daughters, they're like the tripods. They prop her up and very much she talks to them and leans on them for all the advice that she needs to get through these difficult times. The problem that you've got is that the daughters apparently are leaning more towards Prince Andrew because they feel that he's more fragile, there's more fragility there as a person. And, you have to understand daughters and fathers. Fergie's very much gung-ho, I want this, we should do this, and we should move on. She wants the daughters involved in the interview, albeit even if they're interviewed separately, to say their version of events, because according to that source, Fergie believes that this will right the wrongs in the public domain. Why were they pictured, for instance, with the rapper Sean Combs? What were they doing at a party with Harvey Weinstein? You get the picture, trying to lay out the plan. Now, according to the source, Fergie knows that there is no way back into the public domain of royal life, certainly not under the leadership, tutelage, whatever you want to call it, of course, Prince Wiliam and Princess Catherine. They simply don't want anything to do with them. But what she does need is that royal association. So by clearing herself in the public domain, perhaps even being invited to the pre-Christmas thing for tea by His Majesty the King to show goodwill in the season of goodwill, that sort of stuff, that's where Fergie sees her next move. Many suggest, of course, this is going to prove very fateful because who really would want to take that on board? And clearly, Fergie, not the best judge of character, obviously. They will not allow the questions to be veered and vetted and gone through as they were previously on interviews because she was the Duchess of York. She's now a plain named individual. And if she sits down with anybody, even if they're a favourite person, that person will need to get some juice in order to validate the cost of that interview for that channel. And that's why Fergie believes the daughters on board, well, that will soften the blow. Nobody will want to see a mother in distress with their daughters, right? So while Wiliam basically sees this as a very much closed door, apparently Fergie just sees the door as, well, slightly ajar, with an opportunity put right in the right hands that she could at least be partly welcome back. As ever, the optimist, right? Neil Sean, Kensington, London.